Oh, so we started the new thingy bingy?
In this.
Yeah, okay. That was in my crossword puzzle.
What, this?
Sodom, yeah.
Guillermo, are you teaching online or?
Today I finished the last lecture. Next week we review, and then the other week is finals, which I had to do nothing about it. I just had to put it together, but
Okay.
the computer grades it, enters the grade. Oh my goodness.
It's all multiple choice.
We're recording.
Yeah. We are.
Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time. This class meets in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel, of blessed memory, the center of the universe. Apples from the Orchard contain selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. Okay. Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
We're always
In the
ready.
next hour, prepare yourselves, because I'm going to release the Kraken
Good. Waiting for it.
right here in my Kabbalah class.
I thought the Kraken was down there in the lower right-hand corner.
All right.
Oh, the Kraken is in your pants.
We're recorded live. Be nice.
We're
All right,
recording
let the
live.
world know. Let the world know.
You're a
November
Kraken.
20 Okay, today's November 24th. We're up to number 3. During the first 2,000 years, the Torah records people who lived, had children, and died. Hashem brought the flood in the year 1656 and started the world over with Noah. Avram was born in 1948. The Tower of Babel took place in 1996 when Avram was 48. And Noah died in 2006 when Avram was 58. These events marked the transition from the era of Tohu to the era of Tikkun. Was that the last one? The Talmud says, I looked it up last week, and the source is not the source that I saw it. I saw it somewhere else. I meant to put it in. I didn't add it in. It says the first 2,000 years of the world were the era of Tohu, the next 2,000 were the era of Torah, and the next 2,000 are the era of Mashiach. And then there's in the Gemara, I think one place it says that the next 1,000 years are Churuv, are like, it uses the word that the world is destroyed, and some say 2,000 years. Exactly what that means, basically it means that the world will enter a different type of existence, the era of Mashiach, is how we understand it. Okay, but anyway, so this breaks it down and shows that it was in Avram's middle age that we switched from that we began the third set, the second set of 2,000 years, the era of Torah. So this is a little background, and that marks the first 2,000 years are called Tohu, and so now it's Torah. It means just like this is called Tohu. So it compares, we align it. We say it's the idea of the world of Tohu, of chaos, and now it's beginning with that era of Torah. It's also beginning the era of Tikkun. Torah, we get to repair the world, restore the world. And I mentioned last week that Jewish records have very detailed records for the history of the world, period. So for many people, many rabbis, many notable personalities, we know exactly when they were born, exactly when they died, how long they lived, where they lived, what they taught, what their teachings were, who their friends were, who their teachers were, who their students were. Sometimes information about their wives, about their families. And you go through most recorded, maybe through all of recorded history, most recorded history, any century, we could tell you who lived during that time, what was going on in the world then. I mentioned there were two exceptions. One is, I think, exactly when Rabbi Yonasan ben Uziel lived, that he's placed he's placed at 2 different centuries. And the other one is exactly when Hanukkah is. We have no, Hanukkah didn't make it into the Tanakh. It's not given a prominent place in the Talmud. So for Hanukkah, we rely on other non-Jewish sources, non-religious sources. And that's like the book of Josephus, the book of Maccabees, which aren't Jewish books. Not religious texts. So for Hanukkah, there is a difference of opinion exactly when it happened and how long it happened. Basically, the number I remember is 165 or 168. I think 165 before the Common Era, maybe 168 before the Common Era. But there are differences of opinions. But for the most part,
as to the date it began or the year it began,
right,
or both,
right. Whether the persecution, whether the control by Syria lasted 1 year or lasted 5 years. So the whole thing there is obscure. But those I cite those two, and the other one is when Rabbi Yonasan ben Uziel lived, who did one of the translations of Torah called Targum Yerushalmi. It is printed in the Mikros Gedolos, in addition to the Targum, the translation of Onkelos. So on the top left side of the page is the Targum Yerushalmi, or Targum Yonasan ben Uziel, translation of Yonasan ben Uziel, and the century that he lived is doubt. Those are the only two things that I can think of that we're not certain about. And it's just to give you an idea of how much we're certain about everything else. Okay, the Torah says, hold on. The Torah says, these are the generations of the heaven and earth on the day he created them. It says generations. I don't like the word generations. It would more be like the progeny. And let me write. I think progeny is a better word. And it's not only physical progeny. It's not only physical children. For example, if it's the progeny of heaven and earth, it would be like just the historical record of heaven and earth, or of the, what do you call those things? Stars, planets.
Constellations.
Stars, planets, constellations, anything in the heavens. What would that, if you can think of that as progeny of the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
And the Torah uses the word hosts in some places. And the day he created them, Behi Baram, and Behi Baram, the letters can be scrambled to read Avraham. The hay is smaller in the Torah. Oops, wrong one.
That's from Breshit.
Yes. And it's a smaller hay. Like Avraham, the hay was added later. So it's without the hay, it's Avram. With the hay, it's Avraham. The word Behibar can be scrambled to read Avraham. The letter hay is even written small to refer to the hay that was added to Avraham's name. Oh, somebody wrote that in. This correlation between creation and Avraham implies that the world was created for Avraham and his descendants. These are the progeny of heaven and earth for Avraham, or that were created for Avraham, or whose purpose is Avraham. Okay, so now we're going to ask Alan to begin page 96.
Right in the middle. This.
You can start from the middle. This is alluded.
That's where we ended up last time.
And it's a good place to start.
This is alluded to in the Torah's account of how various people fathered children and died, and then their children fathered children and died, and so on. Then he wiped them all out of the flood and replanted them through Noah until he began again in the generation of the dispersion, when the nations were destroyed and all the evildoers were dispersed. In this way, the world of Tohu was wiped out, remaining so until Abraham rebuilt it as the world of Tikkun. This is the mystical meaning of our sage's statement that in the verse, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created. The word for when they were created is a permutation of the word through Abraham. When they were created, Abraham is base resh aleph mem, and through Abraham is base aleph base resh hey mem, same letters. The fact that the word for when they were created can be permuted to the word for through Abraham implies that the creation of the world was, in a sense, dependent on Abraham or his merit.
Okay, thank you. For each day of creation, hold on. Yeah, for each day of creation, the Torah writes, it was evening, it was morning, a second day, a third day, and so on. Then the Torah says, the sixth day. It is the only day that has the. This is meant to imply it was evening, it was morning, the sixth day. The means a particular sixth day. It means to imply that creation depends either on the sixth day of Nisan, of Sivan, when the Torah was given, or on the letter Hey, which is the 5 books of Torah. I think this follows only works with this explanation. This is why I wrote it. Okay, so it says, so from when the Torah says that, it is clear that the Torah is referring to the Torah's bases creation on the Jewish people accepting the Torah. In other words, he says it's all dependent. Everything we're doing now depends on the Jewish people accepting the Torah. That's how creation will endure. Otherwise, it won't. Now, the prophet Yirmiyah writes, as you know, Jeremiah was not a bullfrog. He was one of our greatest prophets. And he writes, if not for my covenant by day and by night, I would not have established the properties of heaven and earth. Again, this means it is only the covenant with Avram, which is observed by day and night by the progeny of Avram, that the world exists. Although Avraham had a son Yishmael and a grandson Esav, Hashem specified that the covenant was intended only for the lineage of Yitzchak and Yaakov, and Yishmael and Esav were excluded from this covenant. So all these things that we're saying here, about Behi Baram, that the heavens and earth were created, Behi Baram, referring to Abraham. The Hey Yom Hashishi, the sixth day, evening, it was morning, the sixth day, that the creation is dependent on the Jewish people accepting the Torah. And now 3, this pasuk from Yirmiyah, that if not for my covenant by day and by night, I would not have established the properties of heaven and earth. All these 3 show us that that the purpose of the world was for Avraham, whose children, or for the Jewish people receiving the Torah, the descendants of Avraham. So this is really what creation's all about. Okay, go ahead, Alan, the bottom of
96. Through the covenant with Abraham, the world of Tikkun endures. As it is written, were it not for my covenant by day, referring to Abraham, despite the presence of impurities, that is Ishmael and Esau. As it is written, for through Yitzchak it will be called for you seed, that is holy seed. The sages point out that in the verse, and there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day, the day is preceded by the definite article, which is not the case with the preceding 5 days of creation. This, they say, is to connect the sixth day of creation with the day on which the Torah was given, the sixth day of Sivan, 2448. The work of creation completed on the sixth day is dependent on the acceptance of the Torah by the Jewish people. Without this acceptance, the world's existence is unnecessary or pointless. Therefore, until the Torah was given, the world's existence was unstable and precarious. This is indicated in the verse, were it not for my covenant by day and by night, I would not have established the laws of heaven and earth. Meaning, were it not for the observance of the Torah by the Jewish people day and night, Hashem would have no purpose for the world and its laws of nature. Here, by day is taken to refer to Abraham, since the world was plunged in spiritual darkness until Abraham, and Abraham began to shine light. The covenant Hashem made with Abraham was that he would make him the progenitor of the Jewish people, who would inherit the land of Israel as the ideal setting for accomplishing their mission, to be a light to the nations and disseminate divine consciousness throughout reality, making the world into Hashem's home. The verse, for through Yitzchak it will be called for you seed, is understood to mean that Abraham's true seed, the generic line of the Jewish people, is passed on only through Yitzchak, not through Abraham's other sons, Ishmael and the sons of Keturah. Furthermore, the word for through Yitzchak in this verse can also mean in Yitzchak. And this is taken to indicate that only part of Yitzchak's seed will transmit the genetic line of the Jewish people. Thus, only Yaakov plays this role, not Esau, Yitzchak's other son.
All right. So that's the bottom line here, that Abraham and the Torah are the point of creation. So next we're going to, I'm sorry. Any feedback on what we just read?
Yeah. I think there's a different way of looking at it. Hashishi, the sixth day, the creation is due to the sixth day. Why? Because Adam and Chava sinned on the sixth day, which caused the world to take a detour. And Hashem has to continuously create and recreate the world. So in a way, it was a foreshadowing of the world to come, which we live in now.
Okay.
Which is the significance of the sixth day. And
All right.
I'll buy the part that the covenant with Abraham and that the spirituality that is infused into the world began with Abraham, based upon that hay from Hashishi, which also could have been the hay that also goes into Abraham's name. It's from Hebaram as a foreshadowing to Abraham. Otherwise, I mean, if Adam had not sinned, then perfection would have been realized, right?
Then what?
Then perfection would have been realized.
Yeah.
So everything would have been the way it was supposed to be.
as usual.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I don't, so say that again. What is the part that the Jewish people, not the Jewish people, what the realization of something has nothing to do with Yishmael? What were you just reading?
The,
That the Jewish people descended not from Ishmael, only through, through Yitzchak, and then through Yaakov, not Esau.
the covenant to
The covenant.
Abraham doesn't go to all of Abraham's descendants. It's only through Yitzchak.
And then only through Yaakov.
So we're casting aside Yishmael.
And all his other siblings.
I mean, Yishmael did tshuva towards the end of the became a tzaddik. He passed away as a tzaddik.
Yes, but the covenant was not through them. The covenant with Abraham was not through Yishmael and not through Esau. They were excluded from the covenant.
The covenant of the parts you're referring to?
The covenant that Hashem made with Abraham. Yes, the covenant of the parts, which is the covenant that Hashem said with Abraham. Abraham, you're going to be my most favored nation status.
Right.
Your descendants will be my nation.
You could say Ishmael may have done tshuva, but his descendants didn't. So it would have stopped with Ishmael. Nothing went beyond him because none of his descendants did.
Yeah, but you don't find Jews putting their forehead on the earth 5 times a day. So
But they're trying to knock sense into their head. That's why. No.
okay. Well, I don't generalize. So
Okay.
there's plenty of good Arabs out there. There's some bad Jews, and there's good Jews, and there's bad Arabs. So
Of course.
but they go down on their forehead no matter where they are 5 times a day. So I think that but I hear what you're saying. I'm not going to get into a sidebar discussion right now.
Okay?
Yeah.
7. All the holy souls were kept. I guess the holy souls were supposed to be born right away from Adam. But once the sin happened, then they were kept until Abraham arrived, who would make a covenant with Hashem. During the era of Tohu, the first 2,000 years of the world was on hold and did not thrive. The holy souls were released after Abraham. As we pointed out, Abraham is the same letters as he created them.
So define for me the holy souls.
These are, it doesn't say much over here. It means the souls that were destined to be in the Jewish people.
Tzaddikim or?
Jewish people
All of them.
have a soul that is unique to us that other people don't have. This is a godly soul that non-Jews don't have. This was given as a gift as part of, this was part of the covenant Hashem made with Abraham. All his descendants would automatically have this Jewish soul, holy soul, this neshama, this godly soul, which is described as an actual part of God. This goes for people who don't know they're Jewish. This goes for people who are Jewish and don't practice. This goes for all Jews.
So what's the purpose of creating all these unholy souls then?
First of all, first thing is that angels don't have these holy souls either.
I wasn't referring to the angels when I said that.
I'm saying, but you say unholy. So it's regular souls that give people life. We have the regular soul as well, because that's what drives our, I'm going to say our limbic systems, but it drives our functional systems, our bodily functions, all of them, whether it's eating and sleeping, whether it's the nervous part, whether it's intellectual pursuits also. This is our regular soul. If we only had a holy soul, we wouldn't be able to be physically alive. So the regular soul is for everybody that makes us function. If not, we wouldn't be alive, we wouldn't function. Over here he says that until Abraham, the world wasn't ready for the holy souls. And so none came into the world, just regular souls. With Abraham, now the world was ready, and Abraham was able to bring these holy souls into the world. He gave birth to Yitzchak, and followed, and then through Yitzchak, then these holy souls were born into the world. Does that answer your question, or do you have a follow-up?
No, it doesn't answer my question, because there's 15 million Jews in the world, thereabouts. There's 7 billion people. So what's the purpose of the 6,985,000,000 other souls?
You mean there should only be Jews in the world?
No, but that's the way it appears by what's being stated here.
I'm not following. You can explain. You can elaborate.
Well, when it says all the holy souls were kept until Abraham arrived. So I'm trying to understand. I'm not trying to be difficult, or certainly not trying to be heretical. I'm just trying to understand what that means, the holy souls. If indeed it's just a Jewish aspect, or that we have this special kind of a soul, I will understand that. And I won't argue it, but I'm trying to understand what's the purpose then of the other 6,985,000,000 people. Isn't every soul holy?
This is a special category of souls that only goes to Jewish people. If you ask me specific questions like that, I can answer, and maybe it'll help you. Maybe it'll help clarify the explanation.
But
These are a special category of souls that are a part of Hashem that only go to Jewish people. It gives us a yearning for godliness, for holiness. This soul yearns.
Chaim, I get that part. I completely understand that part. What I'm grappling with is, what's the unholy soul? What is that for?
So that Jewish people need it in order to be physically alive, because the godly soul doesn't run our bodily functions. Eating, sleeping, like I say, even intellectual pursuits, all the stuff that we do as human beings, as physical human beings, this is driven by our regular soul. It's also called, possibly called the instinctive soul. So first of all, we need it in order to be physically alive. Secondly, in order for people who aren't Jewish to be alive, they have only these other souls. So if there weren't other souls, there would only be Jewish people. So the world wasn't ready until Avraham. So Hashem had to hold these special souls and wait until Avraham arrived. And then he was the first one. I assume that Avraham himself had one, but he also brought this soul into his son Yitzchak. And Yitzchak in turn brought into to Yaakov, and Yaakov to his children.
So
But
then,
Ishmael didn't get it, and Esau didn't get it.
Correct.
so then the purpose is that these 15 million holy souls are to positively influence the other 6,985,000,000 souls.
Part of it. This is the purpose of creation, as we just said, is to bring godliness into the world. And it's done through these holy souls.
That's why the evil was dispersed after Babel, and there were no godly souls there at that time. So it was dispersed, and the evildoers were dispersed, and we could hopefully be able to rectify any other souls and have them see.
We're here to restore the world.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, wherever it is.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. If more questions come to you, or if it's possible that some of your questions may be answered in the next page or two, then you can bring it up later.
Okay.
Where did we? I think I just read 7.
I think you were
Yes.
7, yes.
Yes.
And I think we're on then in Avraham.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask. Hold on. Alan, you want to go ahead a little
Sure.
more?
Then in Abraham, Hashem found a vessel for all the seed of Israel, and the souls that existed before the world was created existed in him. For until then, the world was in the order of Tohu, without the covenant. That is why the world only was able to endure through the covenant of Abraham. This is the mystical meaning of the idea that Hashem created them through Abraham. Understand this. At this point,
Okay. 8. From the beginning of creation, the purpose of the world was for Torah, and the end game was Mashiach. The Medrash says on the second pasuk in the whole Torah, we're all familiar with the first one. In the beginning, Hashem created heaven and earth, the heaven and the earth. Then it says, the world, the land, the earth was chaotic and darkness all over the deep waters. Then the spirit of Hashem hovered over the water. And that's in the second pasuk of Torah. The Medrash says it refers to the spirit of Mashiach. So again, right from creation, Mashiach was set as the end game. That is going to be the purpose of creation. Now that Avram arrived and it was time for holy souls to enter the world, it was the time for the soul of Mashiach to enter as well. Okay, so in other words, Mashiach isn't something that's left to worry about later. He's not the player to be named later. That right away, the stage is being set for Mashiach. Okay, so Gershon, do you want to continue? 97 at the bottom.
Are we there then? No, where are we?
at this point,
At this point, Abraham was informed that he would have Isaac, and the seed of Israel would all exist in him, as it is written. For through Isaac it will be called for your seed. Since this was the case, Hashem also wanted the soul of Mashiach to appear and be manifest. The soul of the Mashiach was also stored away before the world was created, as it is said, and the spirit of Hashem was hovering over the waters. Our sages said that this refers to the spirit of the Mashiach. It existed before this. Something is not grammatically correct. Okay, not necessarily. Since the purpose of the Jewish people to make the world into Hashem's ultimate home will be accomplished fully only through Mashiach, the descent of the souls of the Jewish people at this point in history had to be accompanied by the descent of the soul of the Mashiach. Otherwise, the Jewish people would lack the sense of direction and purpose necessary for them to accomplish what they were meant to accomplish. The fact that the spirit of Mashiach was hovering over the waters at the outset of creation indicates that the world was created for the end to which the Mashiach will bring it, that the Mashiach is a necessary ingredient in creation without which it cannot exist. The name of Mashiach is listed as one of the 7 things that preceded the creation of the world. The other 6 are Torah, Teshuvah, Gehinnom, the Garden of Eden, the abode of the soul in the afterlife, the throne of glory, and the temple. All these are related to the process of achieving the purpose of creation.
Okay, so right away, again, from the beginning of the world, from creation, already Mashiach is ready.
Is there? Yeah.
Now, however, this special category of souls was unable to come into the world because of the sin in the Garden of Eden. 2,000 years go by. Along comes Abraham, and he is dedicated to Hashem like no one before him. And Hashem says, okay, now we can start to repair the world. And so, or Abraham himself says, I better start repairing the world. And so Hashem says, fine, now these holy souls can be born. So, of course, Abraham is going to have Yitzhak, and we're going to talk about that. But thinking about the body of holy souls, okay, there's one of them that you got to look out for. Okay, I always imagine, when they talk about souls and souls being born, I always imagine, don't laugh, like this big bubble gum machine in the sky, right? You put in the quarter, and you turn the knob, and out comes one bubble gum ball, or one soul. Mm-hmm. But you know what? In that tub, with all the bubble gums, all the souls of bubble gum, you got one that's standing out. You know, that's the one that's blue. All the other ones are white. There's one blue one in there, okay? There's one soul that stands out from all the others, and that's the soul of Mashiach. Hashem has to keep an eye on it. He's got to make sure it's intact. So in Tehillim 89, Peites, it says, Matzasi David Avdi, I've found David, my servant. You remember when they used to have license plates that said, I found it. Yeah. And then other people came out with license plates, bumper stickers.
Yeah.
Said, I found it. So other people said, Jewish people came and said, I never lost it. Okay. So why does Hashem need to find the soul of Mashiach? Who lost Mashiach's soul?
Oh.
The fact is, yes, it had to be found. Why? Since it was nurtured and protected, then the Klippa are out looking for the soul. So the soul of Mashiach was. Let's go back.
What?
Mashiach, yes, Mashiach is a descendant of David. David is the great grandson of Rus. Rus was a convert from Moab. And the origin of Moab,
Was through Lot.
Daughter.
Lot and his daughter in the Torah.
Yeah.
So the soul of Mashiach is through Lot, and it was lost. Yes, it was lost in the city of Sodom.
How about using a different word instead of lost? How about using hidden?
Okay, could be hidden, but Hashem uses the word, or David writes in Tillim, I found David, my servant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, you're right. It's not lost that we didn't know where it was. It was
Hidden
lost.
or hiding itself, just hiding.
It was hiding for safekeeping.
Yeah.
You know, it's like putting your jewels and you're putting your
valuables
gold
somewhere.
coins,
You forget where you put them.
putting your gold coins and stuff, and they make a special like a can of baking powder, baking soda or something, and you keep it in your cabinet, and you're the only one who knows that that's a false can, or they have you could put it on a book on your shelf, and you're the only one who knows that it's not a real book. It's a safe. It's a cheap $20 safe that's made to look like a book. Okay, or like you need to sneak the king out of the city for his own safety, so you dress him up like a commoner.
Mm-hmm.
So the soul of Mashiach is in Sodom. So what does it say here? 9. It says in Tehillim, I found David, my servant. The Medrash says Hashem found David in Sodom. What does this mean? Mashiach is a descendant of David. David was a descendant of Lot, who lived in Sodom. Hashem observed Lot closely to keep an eye on the seed that would lead to Mashiach. Continue Gershon in the middle of 98.
It had been lost in Sodom, as it's written. I have found David, my servant. And our sages said that this means that Hashem found the seed of David's soul in Sodom, in the person of Lot, Abraham's nephew. Lot fathered through incest with his daughter Moab, who became the progenitor of the nation of Moab. Ruth, the ancestress of King David, was a Moabite. King David, of course, was the ancestor of the Mashiach. Thus, the soul of the Mashiach was latent in Lot, who had chosen to live in Sodom.
Okay, so we just made the connections, between creation and the purpose of creation, which is Avraham and his descendants who will receive the Torah. We made the connection to the holy souls, the special category of souls, which are waiting. I guess the mission is in order to restore the world, and that could have happened if Adam would not have sinned in the Garden of Eden. Then the souls would have been born and served Hashem and everything and elevated the world. But after the sin, it couldn't happen until someone of Abraham's caliber arrived on the scene. Then Abraham was the one who was able to get the key to that safe with these special neshamas, these special souls. And we also then now they're able to do their job of restoring the world. And the third connection is that this is connected to also the soul of Mashiach. These are not discrete events or concepts. They are all part of one plot. So now what's going to be is 10. Now we understand how all three missions of the angels are tied together. The first came to inform about Yitzchak, which would begin the birth of the holy souls. The second and third angels were there to destroy Sodom and yet rescue Lot, which would lead to the birth of Mashiach. Actually, that incident led directly to the birth of Mashiach, or to the birth of Mashiach's ancestor. As you know, Lot's daughters thought they were the last people on earth. a bottle of wine had been placed in the cave since creation for Mashiach to be born, for them to give their father to drink it for Mashiach to be born. Lot's daughters got him drunk, slept with their father, and got pregnant. The son of the older daughter was named Moab. His descendant was Ruth, great-grandmother of David. So the path to Mashiach begins with Lot in stone. Of course, our class is dedicated to the memory of Malka, who was planned, but Lapayel, practically, this is the path to Mashiach.
But if the
in our reality,
if the bottle of wine was placed in the cave, knowing
Rudy, Rudy, think of it this way, Rudy. In case changing the coding in the software doesn't work, you need to have the paper ballots as a backup. Okay.
Very well said. Very well said.
Yes, yeah. Apparently, Hashem knows what's gonna. Hashem knows, knew what's gonna be, and he had that plan there.
Oy.
Hold on, please.
Oy, oy, oy.
I'm sure the bottle wasn't Manischewitz, right?
No.
It's the only way to get him drunk.
Yeah, man, Shevitz gets him drunk. MD 2020, right?
I do want to say there is a story. There's a story that happened in the 19th century. The Chafetz Chaim passed away, I think, in 1931 in Radna? No. Something with an R. Radin. He lived in Radin. Passed away in 1931. He was about 90 years old, so he was born about 1840-ish. When the Chafetz Chaim was a young rabbi, so we're talking 1860s or 1870s, someone came to him and told him he had a dream. They had studied about Lot, or I guess they had read in the Torah about Lot and his two daughters, and this guy had cracked some jokes about Lot and his daughters. And he had a dream after that, obviously making fun of Lot, that Lot himself came to him in a dream and told him off and told him he wasn't going to live.
Right.
And the guy told this to the Chafetz Chaim, and I don't remember exactly. It was maybe his tongue swelled in his mouth, and he wasn't able, and he ended up choking. Over the next week or two, he developed some kind of sickness, I think, where his tongue swelled in his mouth. He couldn't eat, and he wasn't able to take in air, and he choked to death. Maybe something else. So we sit there, we read it. It's the Torah doesn't spare any words. The Torah doesn't try to hide anyone's what took place, but I guess we have to understand that there were great holy things going on. As much as whatever we read about Lot, in our terms, in our understanding, and and the Torah says other things that he did that weren't honorable, but apparently there's, as we see here, there's some other spiritual stuff going on too. So this is I tell it, what's interesting is because it's a recent story. It's not a story from 2,000 years ago from the Talmud. It's a story that happened in the 1800s, and basically it's a couple generations ago. The Chafetz Chaim was the last generation, just pre World War II, and this happened when he was young. So, with that said, Gershon, continue. It was therefore necessary.
It was therefore necessary that all three angels come at the same time. One came to find the souls of Israel in Abraham, one came to overthrow Sodom, so that Lot could be extricated from there by the third and live there and hide in the cave where Hashem had one waiting for him, so David, the progenitor of the Mashiach, of the God of Jacob, could be eventually be born. Therefore, the three came at the same time. Understand this. Until this point in his life, Lot only had daughters, all of whom were already mature by this time. Therefore, it is unlikely that he would have sons had he remained in Sodom and not had incestuous relations with his daughters. Therefore, the incest had to be arranged so he could father the nation that would carry the soul of the Mashiach latent within him. Furthermore, the society of Sodom was so degenerate that it presumably could not have hosted the soul of the Mashiach. Therefore, Hashem had to extricate it from there. Lot's daughters, believing that Hashem had destroyed humanity again, gave their father wine to drink so that he repopulate the world through them. The sages said that Hashem arranged for there to be wine in the cave they fled to in order for Lot to father the two nations of Ammon and Moab.
And yeah, so here, I didn't notice this before. Here he said, if Lot would have stayed in Sodom, he wouldn't have had any more children, or he wouldn't have had a son.
You're fading.
Mm.
No, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
No,
A little low.
low.
No.
No, nothing.
Well, now you're muted, but
Hey, how now? Can you hear me?
Barely.
No, we
Really?
do. It's not loud as
I
before.
don't know what happened. All of a sudden, your volume went down.
Yeah.
No, this isn't better, is it?
No.
It's a little muffled.
Technology.
That's right. We can hear you.
Okay, it's very important, so I'm going to say this. Let me try. I don't know what to try.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
It says that if Lot had stayed in Sodom,
You're back.
if Lot had stayed in Sodom, he wouldn't have fathered a son. He wouldn't have had a son.
Right.
His wife wasn't interested in having more children. They only had girls. They didn't have boys. Okay, so this whole thing was engineered to have that the city should be destroyed and he should run away, and his wife should die on the way, so that on leaving the city. So it's just the only ones that are left are him and his daughters. This way he's going to have a son. But if the city wasn't destroyed, he wouldn't have been able to have a son. And if he would have, the son may not have been groomed for Mashiach. The city was so degenerate, it couldn't have hosted the soul for Mashiach. So Hashem had to remove him from there, I guess, get rid of his wife, and then his daughters think that they're the only ones left on earth. This is the path to Mashiach.
Circuitous route.
Yeah, with a little incest thrown in, just to make it salacious.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Interesting.
So since I don't think I thought about this before, but in Judaism, we talk about the purity of the people. And something like incest is shunned. There are nations that are mentioned in Torah, I think it was at Plishtim, that it says their whole origin was incestual relationships. And here we're talking about Mashiach, and it seems to be the same thing.
Yeah.
And we bring it out in we didn't get into it here, but we bring it out in a I don't know if the word is positive, but we put a positive spin on it. Unless when Ruth converts, then that label or that stigma of being a descendant of incest is left behind, and through conversion, she assumes a whole new status, a whole new identity. I know.
Well, it says also when somebody converts, then their past no longer exists. That's why when Yaakov took Rachel and Leah, they converted, so they're no longer sisters. Their past was wiped out. They were no longer considered as sisters because they converted, so they were like,
Okay.
new. So the same way.
Okay.
The same way as when Ruth converted, it wiped out her past of where she came from. So the relationship of what led to her does not exist any longer.
Could be. Very good. That could be it.
Biblical loopholes.
Okay. Yeah. Any feedback or thoughts so far?
A lot to ponder.
Yeah.
So the next line starts a different, not a different, like another.
Another thought.
Yeah, it ties it together differently.
I've always wondered why Mashiach emanates forth from a sin.
What?
I've always wondered why Mashiach emanates forth from a forbidden act, a sinful act. Yeah, you could say, well, the Torah wasn't given then. Okay, but that's
No. Yeah, no, you can't say that here.
I know, but that's the pat answer, and
no,
it just doesn't work.
No, I haven't heard that anyone say that for this specific thing.
Yeah. So what have you heard?
What? Well, it doesn't really answer the question.
No, it doesn't.
But I'm going to say it. But I'm going to say what explanation there is.
Okay.
It doesn't answer the question, but it gives explanation and a different perspective, and that is that, as we said, the klipa is looking out for the soul of Mashiach. The Hashem has to protect it and keep it. And like I mentioned before, it's like getting the king out of the city. You dress him up like a commoner, like a regular person, and then people don't know and don't recognize him, and he's able to sneak out safely. The path to Mashiach were found in a number of times was, we said the word lost before. I think it was Rudy maybe said the word hidden in the place where you wouldn't look. In this case, Mashiach came that was passed on through an incestual relationship. Okay, the klipa is not going to look for Mashiach there and not going to try to prevent. At later times, it was also disguised. The father of King David was Yishai, was a great tzaddik. I think he was one of the 4 people who had absolutely no fault or sin and only died because Hashem decreed death for all humankind. the he had reason to suspect that his relationship with the mother of King David was not appropriate, was not okay according to halacha. And because of this, King David, as a child, was like, what do you say? The runt of the litter. He was not treated as a full member of the family. So when the prophet Shmuel came and said, "Where are your children?" and Yishai brought his children, he brought the first one, and Shmuel's a prophet, and he said, surely this is the one who's fit to be king. And Hashem said, nope, that's not it. Man looks to the face, but Hashem looks to the heart. And they brought the second one, the third one, and for each one, the prophet Shmuel said, isn't there anyone else? Isn't there anyone else? And then after all six, they said, no, there isn't. And he said, there has to be someone else. They said, well, okay, we do have, but it was someone that Yishai suspected suspected his lineage wasn't a legitimate child. And they brought in David, and Hashem said to the prophet Shmuel, this is the one. So Yishai had questions about his lineage, but his lineage, Hashem confirmed or affirmed that it was intact. So in that sense also, the fact that there were questions about it alone was brought a stigma with it. But that was in order to protect and disguise the soul of Mashiach. So that is two. We see a third instance of this is going back, a story that you're all familiar with. When Yehuda found a wife for his son, Er sinned and he died, and the wife Tamar married the second son, Onan, and he sinned as well. And in the end, Yehuda was worried that his third son would die, so he didn't give her to marry. And in the end, she
slept with him.
At the end, she I could say, staked herself out as a prostitute. It says that she was fully covered. She staked herself out as a prostitute, and Yehuda had relations with her, and that was that was the beginning of Mashiach. So also, and which technically, in hindsight, wasn't necessarily forbidden. So we find it a number of times through these highly questionable things how the soul of Mashiach was disguised. So Rudy doesn't answer the question about incest. I don't think it answers the question about incest, but it does show us that there was this theme throughout the history of the soul of Mashiach, that it was disguised, it was protected, and placed in situations where you wouldn't expect to find it, and all this in order to keep it intact for its own protection.
That begs another question then, okay? And what you just said is similar to what I heard. I forgot, is it Rabbi Miller in Brooklyn that has that Kabbalah shir?
Rabbi Milstein.
So he's the one that said that to ward off the evil, the klipa that was pursuing this neshama, this soul, Hashem had to hide the soul of Mashiach in a salacious act. Just like you said a moment ago, if you want to hide some coins, you put it in a can with coffee grounds. Nobody's going to look there. So if that indeed is the case, then Hashem is hiding a soul from the Satan who's pursuing this soul. But then the question is, I thought that angels don't have free will.
Who said that Hashem hides the soul in the Satan?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say that. I said, Rabbi Milstein said what you said, that Mashiach was such the soul of Mashiach is such a precious entity that it was being pursued by, and the reason why it's being pursued is because when Mashiach comes, all evil will be no more.
Correct.
So it's looking out for its own livelihood, so to speak. Okay.
Yes.
So Hashem hid the soul of Mashiach within a salacious act. So if that is indeed the case, what does Hashem have to be fearful of the Satan for? So, and then what, the Satan has a choice? Since when do the angels have a free choice that they can pursue on their own and make their own decision?
That's what he does.
I'm
That's
sorry?
his job. I didn't say free choice. He's doing the job, the mission Hashem gave him.
So, I mean, it's the same Satan that argued with Hashem at the splitting of the Red Sea. Why are you saving these idolaters? I mean,
Yeah.
that's too easy an answer, Chaim.
What?
What you just said is too easy an answer. What do you mean that's his mission? Hey, come on.
What do you mean? He's doing what Hashem told him to do. Hashem gave him a job. He's doing his job.
And Hashem has to be fearful that the Satan is going to find the soul of Mashiach.
Why fearful?
Well, that's an onomatopoeia. I mean, maybe I'm using the word incorrectly, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, Hashem, I don't know. It's just
Hashem gives the Torah to fight the
very,
Satan.
very complicated matter to understand in our feeble little minds. That's all I'm trying to say. This has been haunting me for a very long time.
Hashem set us up in a tennis match
Yeah.
for his amusement. And he sits back and watches us playing the Satan.
I'll give you the, how can I put it politely? The NPR version of why. The story is the way it is, so we don't ever commit the sin of looking down on, oh, but that person is converted, and that person is a mamzer. Because even people that came from sin ends up being progenitors of Moshiach. So from a very low, not the spiritual, from a low point of view.
I like that. I like that answer.
It's educational. It's liberal. So we're never. That's what I'm
He's not
saying.
gonna take that one.
Yeah. So it's
He's not
like,
gonna take that one. It's liberal.
that's why I say NPR. So anyhow, so that's a possibility for us to never commit the sin to say, oh, but she had a reform conversion or whatever, correct? So let's remember not to look down on anybody and try to uplift whatever flame of Judaism is there.
That's good.
Of,
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, because
I like
sometimes, oh, she had a reform conversion.
All right, that ends on a
Anyhow.
nice note.
No, it's a sin to do that. But the fact that Moshiach is coming from a very contrived, if you want to put it in a neutral term, contrived event. They thought it was the end of the world, and they had probably a very good intention to keep humanity going. So, let's not judge. I get to points where I get very judgmental. And oh my God, look at that dog, he's so fat. And I have to stop myself, say, what's going on with me that I get that judgmental. So this is, that's the low drash, not the spiritual, not high level. This is the from the flat earth point of view.
Very nice.
All right.
Very
So
good.
should we stop here? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Boy. All right.
Okay.
We'll wait for Jim.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Since it's the thankfulness season. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Happy
Thank you,
Thanksgiving,
Ryan.
everyone.
Yes,
I
and happy release the Kraken Day tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. Oh, jeez.
it was a big octopus. What the heck are you talking about?
You'll find out.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a good evening. Take care.
I hope it makes me happy.
Oh, it will.